The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Philadelphia. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show. Today's show is brought to you by the Michael Cardamone Law Offices. If you're injured on the job, call the Cardamone Law Offices for a free consult, 215-206-9068. I am so excited about today's show. Our expert has actually been with us for several years, and we get more letters regarding this show because it's workers' compensation. And I'm so excited because we've got the finest workers' comp attorney in the state of Pennsylvania, which is not easy to do. So let's welcome attorney Michael Cardamone. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Steve. Thanks for having me on. How are you?
I'm doing fine. You know what, Michael, we've been doing this for 2 years. And now that we've gone to TV, this is the first time Michael and I have actually seen each other.
That's right.
Welcome, my friend.
Thank you.
Let me say, I just got to say this. You are, without a doubt, have the finest workers' comp law firm in the state of Pennsylvania. And this is how I know this. We have more workers' comp attorneys contacting us saying, is Michael still on your show? You have an opening. And it's like your peers are watching you. They enjoy your show. And I'm just glad we have you. So let's tell everybody about your firm, Michael.
Sure. We are a boutique workers' comp firm. We're small, and all we do is workers' comp. So we keep it very simple and focused. 100% for the injured workers. We don't bounce around to the insurance side and then back to representing injured workers. Our sole allegiance is to the injured workers, and so that's what we do. We have our main office in Lansdale, and we have another office in Center City, Philadelphia, and a couple satellite offices. So we're small, but we're strong, and we're very accessible. That's one of the things we pride ourselves on, is being accessible and getting back to people quickly as well.
You know, I always save this question for last, but I'm going to start it off today because, Michael, so many people don't understand how how your fees are. And they're so simple. You don't have to bring your checkbook with you. Explain how you charge.
Sure. So workers' comp in Pennsylvania, and I'm sure most states, it's contingent. So what that means is we only get paid if we either win your case or if we settle it. And if you're already on workers' comp, we can represent you and monitor the case and set you up for a strong case down the road, whether it's fighting off a petition in court or trying to settle the case, et cetera. So a lot of people look at me like I'm crazy when I say you don't need to pay anything, because with most types of law, you have to open up your checkbook. But with workers' comp and personal injury in general, it's contingent. So there's, you don't have to bring a check, a cash, anything. We sometimes don't even get paid. We might work on a case for months or years, and sometimes we never end up getting a fee. But it is contingent, and it's really nice because it levels the playing field. It allows the injured workers to fight back against the insurance companies, and it gives them a chance to pursue their case properly and to win it.
And the other thing that we get so many calls about is, can a employer come back on you, or can they do anything to you if you hire an attorney for a work injury?
They might, but they're going to find themselves with another lawsuit. So the smart move is to not retaliate, because you're not allowed to retaliate against an injured worker merely for pursuing your legal rights or pursuing a workers' comp case or getting an attorney. So that is a real big fear with a lot of people. The first thing they ask is, I'm really nervous. I want to keep working. You know, when I get better, I like my employer. They like me. Is this going to rock the boat? In reality, it can, but it may interrupt or reduce the relationship in a way, but they're not allowed to retaliate and fire somebody or demote them just because they're pursuing their rights. And I always remind my clients or potential clients, this is your earning power on the line. You don't want to mess around and go about this on your own. It shouldn't be that way, and it should be a simple, easy system, but it's not. It's very complicated and very contentious. And if you don't have an attorney on your side, you're basically throwing money out the window. Looks like I lost you there.
That is never a good situation. Hi, this is Rebel. Steve will be fixing his camera, and he'll be right back with us.
No problem.
But so when someone, a lot of people, like you were saying, they worry about losing their jobs. What if it's a right to work state?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's really the same analysis. In other words, the employer, they can get rid of somebody after a workers' comp injury, but they can't fire you or demote you because you're pursuing workers' comp. In other words, here's the scenario. So let's say you get hurt, you go out of work, and you're out for a while, and your employer has a need to fill your position to keep the company going. They can let you go and terminate you because they need to fill the role, but they can't send you a letter or verbally tell you you're fired because we're aggravated that you got hurt, or that you're pursuing your rights, or that you're getting an attorney. So a lot of people think their job is protected. So there's this fine line between you're not able to be fired because you're pursuing comp, but yet if you're on workers' comp or pursuing it, it doesn't necessarily protect your job either. So you have to kind of go over on a case-by-case basis to figure out, you know, was the firing or termination lawful or not?
Michael, tell people what kind of workers' jobs you usually handle.
Sure. I would say the number one industry right now would be the healthcare field. I think because of our demographics and the aging population, you know, we see a lot of nurses, nurse case managers, you know, x-ray techs, CNAs, people that are hands-on, maybe assisting a person in a home or bathing them, and they fall off balance and they pull their back out. That's extremely common. Construction workers, of course, we get cases where people are falling off ladders a lot. Truck drivers and motor vehicle accidents. And there can be third-party cases with these too, which is an offshoot of the workers' comp. But I would say, yeah, the healthcare field, still the construction field, we see a lot. But it's really varied. I mean, you'd be surprised. I had a client one time that was a secretary at Merck Pharmaceutical, and, you know, she had tripped on a wire and threw her back out and had surgery. And so, you know, we see desk workers too, sometimes with carpal tunnel, but the majority would be, you know, blue collar workers, you know, doing landscaping or working in a factory, or a laborer, or the healthcare worker who are really hands-on and using their physicality as part of their job, or an assembly line worker. We don't see quite as many of them anymore as we did in when I started in 1999, but, you know, factory workers, things like that, you see a lot as well.
You know, I got to ask, this is something else that we get so many letters on, And I think now it's because, we're finding out with COVID that maybe we weren't told what we needed to know. People got COVID at work. Is it still pretty tough to, say, sue a hospital if you're an employee there, if you got COVID at the hospital?
Yeah, I would say it is challenging. There are some niches of the industry, healthcare workers, people that were working in like meat factories that were packed in like sardines, where there's a sort of almost a legal presumption of work relatedness if somebody would contract COVID in one of those environments, the first line healthcare workers. But you will be cross-examined vigorously by a defense attorney that is an attorney for the insurance company about where you were in those days on that particular day that you reported it, were you at a gas station, were you at a convenience store, were you exposed to anybody at home in your neighborhood? So obviously, because of the nature of COVID being, invisible, it's not necessarily a slam dunk case. You really got to make sure that you're eliminating other possible causes, and also make sure you have a good medical expert who can render an opinion that, within reasonable medical certainty, that this condition, COVID, exposure to mold, things like this, that it's in fact related to the work or work activity. So those cases are pretty tricky still.
Have you, I know you follow cases probably around the United States. Has anybody contracted COVID on their job that are suing the hospital for workers' comp?
Yes. Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I can't name, obviously, from confidentiality, the name, but yes, there's been cases like that. Yeah. Yeah. And I had a sad case. It was involved a death case where the injured worker had, in our allegations, contracted COVID from work in the food industry. I'll just leave it at that. And then there was also a personal injury case, and the whole case kind of settled as one global resolution, but it was very sad. And, there were allegations that the employer knew about the spreading of COVID within the plant and concealed it to the workers. And so it was getting, pretty nasty in terms of the allegations. But yeah, there's been, I'm sure, hundreds of cases where people have sued their hospital for COVID exposure. And you got to remember, Steve, the thing is, it's not a matter of negligence in workers' comp. So if you're injured in the course and scope of your employment, you're covered. It doesn't matter if it was the employer's fault, your fault, or nobody's fault. So, when you use the word sue, it is legally accurate, but it sometimes implies like somebody did something wrong. And you could have contracted COVID in a certain environment or certain workplace without actually there being any negligence involved.
There must be some sort of weather or something going on in Florida.
Yeah, that's okay.
So do me a favor and tell everybody again where they can contact you.
Sure. So our phone number is 215-206-9068. And we're on the web at cardamonelaw.com. So that's CARDAMONELAW.com. You can also reach us at myphillyworkerscomp.com. It takes you to the same site. We also blog at paworkinjury.info. And also, I don't mind people emailing me. It's michael@cardamonelaw.com if they want to send an email with the facts of their situation and get a free consult.
Michael, you also, though you're you practice law in the Philadelphia area, you can handle cases throughout Pennsylvania.
Absolutely. Yeah. The workers' comp law is the same in Pennsylvania, whether you're in Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Erie, the suburbs, it doesn't matter. So, and a lot of people are really stretching out their practice now, because a lot of our hearings are continuing to be by video, about 90% probably to 95% of the time. And so really expands or increases your ability to expand your practice, and some people like having an attorney from across the state. A lot of people are convinced, whether it's true or not, that the local attorneys are all in cahoots with each other, and that, there's a lot of corruption. I don't see that, but a lot of people, it's surprising. We get calls from Pittsburgh a lot. We don't have a brick and mortar out there anymore, but we get calls sometimes from people out there who want a Philly attorney, and they have an idea that we're maybe a little more aggressive or a little more ferocious. And so, they want to hire the Philly attorney, or because they think the local bar is corrupt for whatever reason. And I don't really see that, but, yeah, we can really represent anybody, any corner of the state.
I tell you what I love about your firm, Michael, and a lot of people might not ever think about this. I do, because we have shows like this across the country, and your firm only practices workers' comp. I mean, you don't go in your office and you see it. Well, we do bankruptcy and criminal law, but you just concentrate in one area, and that is your expertise. And I can say expertise.
Yeah, it is nice to be able to say that. I'm just guessing about 99% of the other firms that say they're workers' comp firms also do Social Security disability, personal injury, maybe some criminal defense. Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
That's fine. But we're able to say, yes, we only do workers' comp, and that funnels in a lot of people our way, because you and I have talked about this analogy before with a back injury. And would you prefer an orthopedic surgeon who only does back surgery, or the general orthopedist? It's the same analogy here. So we really use that as an advantage for marketing, to tell people, listen, we believe you're in good hands with us, because this is all we do. And, we're not dabbling in other things. So it's a really an acute focus.
Michael, is the income that they receive after you're representing them, is that taxable?
No, workers' comp is not taxable income. Same with like personal injury proceeds if you settled a case. So that's a nice thing. A lot of people will take a hit with their workers' comp check, but if they're in the sort of the middle range of wage earners, they don't see a huge dip, because although they're getting a lower check, it's not taxable. But the high wage earners, they really take a hit because there's a max rate each year. So, for example, this year I think it's $12.73 a week, something like that. So, if you earned $150,000 a year, now you're stuck on a check at $1,200 and something dollars. So, not that it's a picnic for the middle wage earners or low wage earners, because you're not getting any raises. Excuse me, and you're getting, the cost of things are increasing the longer you're on comp. So it's not a picnic no matter what. But at least for a big chunk of people, the fact that it's tax free does keep them somewhat alive financially.
What if a person, say, had back pain for years back from high school, maybe a football injury, but their work is making it worse? Can they pursue that as workers' comp case?
Yes, that's a really, really common scenario, Steve, where a lot of people are sort of intimidated and they think, oh, I had prior back problems, so they're going to find out about it and I'm going to lose. No, if your doctor says you made it worse from your work activities or a traumatic event at work, it could be either something in one moment, lifting up a box, falling from a ladder, etc., or from repetitive work activities, the day-to-day grind. If that's aggravating your previous condition, that's still a work injury. Now, a lot of those cases will get denied because the insurance company's licking their chops saying, oh, good, this guy's got a lot of priors, and how do we know what's related to what? But if the doctor, can make the case and show the worsening either through their symptoms and or maybe a diagnostic study. You had a prior MRI showing a herniation at L5-S1, and now you have one showing new herniation or a worsening at that level. So yeah, we always try to educate our clients that we hope you don't see us again because we don't want you to get hurt again, but so you know your rights. We have a lot of repeat visitors who, to their credit, go back out into the workforce after an injury and they make it worse and they come back to us. So same thing with a high school injury or something non-work related. If you aggravate it at work, that's a new injury and that's compensable.
I remember going to a doctor. I had knee pain and he said, "There's nothing wrong with me. I'll be okay." When you got a pain or you feel like, you have a work injury and you go see your doctor and your doctor doesn't believe you, can you see another doctor? Is that okay to do?
Yeah, especially if you're over the 90-day period. So in workers' comp in Pennsylvania, not all employers, but most of them will have a list of panel doctors that you're supposed to see in the first 90 days. That you sign a document when you start working, and then once you report an injury, they're supposed to show you this reminder again saying, "Hey, you got to see our doctors." They tend to be very biased. Everybody knows that. They're called panel docs, and they put a lot of pressure on people to return to work, to minimize the nature of the injury and call it a contusion or a sprain. And so after that 90 days, the injured worker has freedom to see anybody they want. So that's a really big deal in Pennsylvania. Other states like New Jersey, for example, you don't have control over your doctor. So Pennsylvania is great in that regard. Although that 90-day period is frustrating, once you're over that hump and you have the freedom to see somebody who might advocate for you and listen to you and be more objective, it's really a nice thing.
How does a worker survive without any pay from work? How do they do that?
It's really tough. I mean, I go through a whole litany of options for them, because their claim might be denied. And although we think we're going to win, and we usually do, it takes a while to get through court. It can take up to a year, in fact, on a claim petition where you're seeking benefits. So I'll ask them, do you have savings? Do you have a short-term disability plan through work or a private plan? You might qualify for unemployment comp, which is less than workers' comp, but it might, hold you over. Do you have a way to, use a credit card? Do you have good credit? So it's really tough for people to navigate their way through this 6 to 10 to 12 months, sometimes more, in court to try to survive financially. It's very stressful. And it really, what happens is most cases settle in comp before a final decision, but when someone's financially struggling, probably 95% of them settle, and it puts a little bit of lower, it reduces the settlement value because there's a more sense.
Insurance companies love that.
Yeah, I mean, they do. A lot of them really drag these out. They're not going to admit it, but they drag it out to starve people into a smaller settlement a lot of times.
If you win, do you get paid past due interest?
Yes. Yeah. If you win, you'll get, it's called 10% per annum, which basically means 10% per year. So we have, interest calculators to figure out, okay, their comp rate is $500 a week. They're owed 25 prior weeks. You do the math and then you add on the 10% interest per year part. So that's the nice thing. It doesn't really make you whole, so to speak, but
right.
Thank God we have that interest because it does help square people up a little bit better when they get their money.
What about if you have short-term disability benefits? Is that as good as workers' comp?
No, it's not. I mean, it's generally 60% or 66%, which is close to workers' comp. The problem is they're the legal, first of all, there's no settlements with short-term disability. You either qualify for it and get it for X period of time, or you don't. So workers' comp, a lot of cases will settle for a lump sum because you can settle out future medical and future wage loss. And so there's a real advantage with comp. Short-term disability, the legal playing field is not quite as fair as workers' comp. I think it's a little bit more arbitrary. You see more abuse there by the referees or the judges. And so workers' comp is better. Now, sometimes people will get short-term disability through their work while they're waiting for workers' comp. And then if they receive the workers' comp carrier will get a reduction or a credit for what the injured worker got in the STD benefits, only to the extent that the employer funds those premiums. So if it's a private plan, let's say you have a plan not through work, but you just bought it on your own, then you're going to do really well because you'll get your comp and the short-term disability on top of it. If it's through work and your employer pays for it 100%, then that'll come out of the workers' comp pay. But to answer your question, in general, comp is superior to short-term disability.
You know, this show always goes by so fast, Michael. I want to remind everybody today's show is brought to you by the Michael Cardamone Law Offices. If you're injured on the job, call the Cardamone Law Offices today for a free consult, 215-206-9068. Like I always like to end the show, Michael, why should I retain your firm if I get injured at work?
Well, I would say three things. One, we are a boutique firm, which I think really, I don't want to disparage the larger firms, but it's our belief that our clients are going to get more attention from us. There's going to be less levels to get to the attorney. You know, it's either my assistant answer the phone or myself. We let clients text us. We're accessible. We email them back quickly. We're all over our cases, and we position them for good settlements because we're not a mill where we have 20 new cases coming in every day where we have to settle all these other ones and we have to settle them on the cheap. No, we put our heart and soul into every case. And I think that gives us an advantage, and being focused like that, not doing other parts of the law, just workers' comp. And finally, I would say we're known to be very friendly. Although we fight hard, we're accessible, and we form really nice relationships, respectful relationships with our clients. And so I think that gives us an edge.
Well, the phone number is 215-206-9068. We've been scrolling it throughout the show, but if you're listening on radio or podcast, Michael Cardamone Law Office is 215-206-9068. Michael, as always, enjoyed it. Michael will again be back with us again next month on Ask the Experts. Thank you, Michael. Enjoyed it as always.
Thank you, Steve. See you soon.
For sure. That's Attorney Michael Cardamone. We will be back with you again next Tuesday at 10 o'clock with more Ask the Experts. Have a good week, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.